Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, live or recorded from Davis-Wade Stadium following Mississippi State's ball game against LSU, and it was rough for the Bulldogs, and I mean really rough for Mississippi State. 41-14 is your final score here at Davis-Wade. LSU absolutely just drags Mississippi State on the field here. One of the worst showings in this series for the Bulldogs since 2007 when they lost that ball game 45-0. This has been a series that has become way more competitive over the last few years for Mississippi State with LSU. They've won a few ball games. They've had opportunities to win other games that they lost. Last year, they were in that ball game for 3.5 quarters and lost by a couple touchdowns in Baton Rouge. They won in 2020 in Baton Rouge, had a chance in 2021 as well. They lost that ball game 25-20. But today was just a mismatch. It looked like State was completely outmatched. They got outcoached. They got outplayed in every single facet of the ball game. There was really nothing good that happened in this game for Mississippi State, and it started with lack of execution on the offensive side of the ball, some miscues on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if it was all a game plan issue. I think it's just a lot of blame to go around for everybody. Mississippi State just played horribly in this game, and it was an opportunity for the Bulldogs to really – you're on a national stage, you have an opportunity to really emerge as a team inside the SEC West. It's a season that looks to be a little unpredictable with the SEC West. Alabama doesn't look very good right now. LSU has some flaws, obviously, having lost to Florida State by 21 points. And there's not a ton of teams out there in the conference right now that you look at that are just flat dominant. Georgia's struggling as we speak with South Carolina. We'll see if they're able to kind of right the ship there. But the SEC doesn't look as dominant as it usually does, and Mississippi State has one of the most veteran groups in the entire conference, and it just doesn't show up. Right now, for whatever reason, the experience that Mississippi State has is not showing up, and we saw that from the very beginning. You have an opportunity on the first possession to do something against a defense that was missing its best defensive back, and Greg Brooks, who it was mentioned post-game by Brian Kelly, is dealing with a medical emergency. That's a former Mississippi State commitment, played at Arkansas and at LSU, so our thoughts are with him. Hopefully everything is going good with him and he's going to be okay. But an already struggling secondary for LSU, Mississippi State going up against that unit without another one of its starters and a young group there, you had a chance to exploit that. Mississippi State did not. We didn't see a whole lot of plays down the field for Mississippi State offensively. And on the first possession, it starts a 12-yard pass right off the bat. Looks like things are going great. Mississippi State had -7 yards offensively after that play over the next 4 possessions. State had -7 yards. This isn't the LSU defense of old that we've seen that was, had the Honey Badger or Patrick Peterson and guys like that on it. Glenn Dorsey. This is a good LSU defense with some flaws in it. Mississippi State did nothing to exploit that. They brought a lot of pressure off the edge. Will Rogers didn't have a whole lot of time to throw the football. Wasn't accurate at all. 39% passing. This was his worst game as a Mississippi State Bulldog. 11 of 28 passing. Just over 100 yards, I think. It just was a bad game for Will Rogers. It was a bad game from a game plan perspective. It was not called particularly well. Mississippi State didn't handle situations well. Will Rogers talked after the game about the 4th down play that they had. They thought it was a first down. They get up to the line of scrimmage. It's actually 4th and 1. They bring in Mike Wright, and they get a false start on that play, end up having a turnover on downs because it's 4th and 6. It was plays like that. Mississippi State just looked absolutely lost. This looked like a game from 2005 for Mississippi State against LSU. Mississippi State has not been a team that has looked outmatched very often against LSU over the last, 10 years. They've been able to go toe-to-toe. They've been a team that has been able to bring that physicality and be the aggressor in some ball games. And they've lost some games by 3-4 touchdowns in this series since then. But at the same time, it didn't look quite like it looked like today. And that's very concerning if you're a Mississippi State fan. You've seen nothing in the last 2 weeks that should give you a ton of confidence in this program right now and where they are. There's a lot of things that Mississippi State has to clean up before you start to feel really good about them again. And right now, it's just not there. Zach Arnett's mentioned now for 2-3 weeks that they haven't coached it well enough. They weren't prepared. They didn't prepare the players well enough. Well, that's a problem. That is a big problem. If you're saying that week in and week out, and you're blaming yourself for it, that's a cause for concern. There's something going on within that coach's office that's very concerning for Mississippi State. And maybe it's Zach Arnett just saying that to protect his players, and I get that too. But if that is truly the problem, and the players are not prepared well enough, that is a very big issue coaching inside this league for Zach Arnett. And it was just a game that nothing really went right for the Bulldogs. The offense did nothing to help out the defensive side of the ball. Defense was constantly out of position, trying to guard one of the best wide receivers in the country, Malik Neighbors. 13 catches over 255-plus yards, 2 touchdowns. They had back-to-back touchdowns on Hunter Washington, who was in one-on-one coverage. So Mississippi State did nothing to adjust right there. After Neighbors had beaten Washington the first time, they come right back to him for a big touchdown catch. State made Jaden Daniels look like a Heisman candidate, and he's an extremely talented quarterback, but 30 for 34, I think, is what he was, for well over 300 yards, rushed for over 65 and 2 more touchdowns. I mean, they just made Jaden Daniels look like a quarterback that's untouchable, and that's 2 straight weeks that Mississippi State has been bad defending a mobile quarterback like that. The Bulldogs have got to get better, and they got to get better fast, because right now you're staring down the barrel of a pretty difficult schedule, and it's not going to get any easier. LSU's probably going to be one of the best teams that Mississippi State plays this year. I think, to me, that was my SEC West pick this year, and they certainly looked like it today. And I think they need some credit too. I thought they played extremely well. I thought they executed well. They dominated Mississippi State on the offensive and defensive lines. And in this series especially, and it's really true every week, if you're not winning the line of scrimmage, you're going to get beat. And a lot of times in this league, if you're not winning, you're going to get beat badly. And the games that Mississippi State has won in this series against LSU, they have won the line of scrimmage. They've been the aggressor. They've gotten pressure in the backfield defensively. They've opened up holes offensively. They didn't do that today. It just wasn't there. LSU dominated them up front. There's still a lot of shuffling on the offensive line for Mississippi State. They can't seem to get the best 5 guys out there offensively. I thought we did see, I want to be fair and talk about some good things that we saw. DeCarlos Nicholson, I thought, emerging at cornerback. He looks to me like one of State's most talented cornerbacks. That's a guy that I feel like you got to just push forward, let him work through the fire. I thought he had some good moments today. I thought Deontay Anderson was really good on the defensive line off the bench. I was impressed with him. But other than that, there just wasn't a whole lot to speak of with Mississippi State's defense. They struggled mightily in this game getting off the field. LSU was converting 3rd downs and 4th downs routinely, and State just couldn't get off the field. They didn't have very good contain on Jaden Daniels, and when they did get pressure on him, he was able to extend plays and find open receivers. So there's a big issue for Mississippi State, I believe, in the secondary. There's not enough push up front. The defense is concerning. It really is. That's 2 straight weeks that they've not been very good. And you better get better faster, because South Carolina's coming up next week as we speak, beating Georgia. And again, we'll see if that stands. I don't know if it will or not. Georgia is bound to wake up at some point, but even if it doesn't, that's a team that, playing at their place, they can run you off the field if Mississippi State's not ready. And then you got Alabama after that. Again, a team not playing great right now, but they're certainly far more talented than Mississippi State. So there's a lot of concerning trends that we're seeing with the Bulldogs. Offense is the biggest issue right now. Back-to-back weeks, they just haven't been very good. 39 carries a week ago to 17 passes. It was it wasn't balanced at all. Arizona knew what was coming, and they game planned for it there and adjusted in the second half, and State just wasn't very good. And then today, you throw the ball 28 times and run it 20. It almost seemed like they needed to run the football a little more today. I mean, it's kind of tough to nail down what this identity is for this team. And they're struggling to adjust in game. They're struggling to have the right game plan. The offense is just it's a mess right now for Mississippi State, and there's a lot of things that have to change for them to be competitive in this league. And at the end of the day, we've been talking all off season and first part of the year about, people discounting Mississippi State, talking about Mississippi State like they're the cellar dweller of the SEC. Right now, that stuff is very much in play for Mississippi State. If they don't get better, all those people were proven right, and the Bulldogs were indeed one of the worst teams in the league, and those people were correct about it. So that's the most disappointing about what we've seen so far. And State's 2-1. This is where we predicted them to be after 3 games, but it's the way that this has happened the last 2 weeks that's concerning and should be concerning for Mississippi State moving forward. So there's a lot of things this team has to fix, and we'll see if it's fixable. I don't know, but you have one of the most experienced rosters in the league, and to come out and have a game like they had on Saturday is really disappointing if you're a Mississippi State fan, to see that your team just didn't perform, didn't show up in the game. And you have a lot of guys that have played a lot of football in this league. To have a game like that, which was one of the worst that they've had in years, it's really disappointing. And as Zach Arnett said post-game, and there's a lot of fault that you can find in Zach Arnett at this point if you want to, but as he said post-game, they've got to either dig down and get better and redeem themselves next week, or these losses are going to continue to happen. These kind of games will continue to happen for Mississippi State if they don't, because you can get embarrassed really quickly in this league. If you don't show up, you don't do your job, it can really unravel for you pretty quick. So for Mississippi State, they've got to find a way to get better between this Saturday and next Saturday. South Carolina team is on the schedule that can beat you at their place, and they can run you off the field there. So Mississippi State's got to be better, and they got to find a way to win that ball game, or this thing can really start to snowball on them. So we'll see what happens there. If you guys would like, we've got some post-game video up on YouTube. I've got some interviews there with Will Rogers, Jet Johnson, Nate Watson, and Jaquavius Marks. We got a lot of content going up on the website right now, so guys, make sure that you're keeping up with everything there. We got Thunder and Lightning coming up here shortly. Brian and I will probably record here after I leave this place, and we'll have more reaction coming for you the rest of the weekend. So make sure you're staying tuned in there. 41-14 the final here, as Mississippi State loses to LSU, falls to 2-1 on the season, 0-1 in SEC play. So they'll get back after it 6 o'clock, 6:30 maybe next week against South Carolina. It's an opportunity for Mississippi State to bounce back. We'll see if they take advantage of that opportunity or not. But we'll have some Talking Dogs live chat probably Monday night. We'll be back on with you if you guys want to get on there. But this has been all my thoughts from today. I'll have some more on Sunday's Thunder and Lightning for you guys to tune in and listen to as well. So other than that, I hope you guys have a good rest of the weekend if you can, and make sure you're tuned back in for more reaction on Mississippi State sports moving forward. Appreciate you guys. Catch you down the road.